Home sweet home. Veronica shut the front door behind her, placing the grocery bag on the small nightstand. She savored the peaceful silence that enveloped her. There was something delightful about returning after work to a quiet apartment and having a few hours all to herself. Her daughter Varia had been sent on vacation to Turkey with her grandmother just a couple of days ago. It was nice knowing they were basking in the sun during the winter months. Her husband had gone straight from work to visit his parents and would be staying overnight. Veronica cherished these rare moments of solitude, transforming them into a mini celebration. She declared a break from diets, indulging in cheese slices, salted redfish, grapes, berries, and a bottle of good wine. And of course, a tub of pistachio ice cream. Veronica laid out the food on the table, contemplating the most challenging decision. Should she prepare a light dinner or simply boil a bag of succulent king prawns and savor the delicacy with a glass of light beer? Lost in thought, she was abruptly interrupted by a phone call. Glancing at the screen, she frowned. When would Karina understand that everyone was tired of her nosiness? "Hey, am I disturbing you?" Karina didn't wait for an answer. "Listen, I wanted to ask if Lietka has found someone new after the divorce." "Karina, she only got divorced 2 months ago, and here you are already prying for gossip," Veronica retorted sharply. "Yes, of course. And how are you and Borka doing, by the way? I hope everything is all right." Her friend's voice carried a note of sympathy. "I'm sorry, Karina." Nika grinned. "I just got home from work. I'm tired." "Oh, of course, of course." Karina's voice became ingratiating. "Thank God you're doing well. Because yesterday I saw them together, I couldn't sleep all night." "Who did you see?" Nika didn't understand. "You're Boris and Lyudmila. You know that Ludka and I work in the same building, but in different offices. Yesterday I was going to have lunch in a cafeteria. I went out, and ahead Ludka goes. I called out to her, but she didn't even hear me. She galloped to the car. She sat down on the seat and wham. That's all they saw. What's Boris got to do with this? So the car is yours." I recognized it at once. The color was conspicuous, plum, and as soon as I saw Boris behind the wheel, I immediately realized that something wrong was going on. "Well, first of all, it's Boris, not Borka. Is he a collective farm pig or what?" Nika barely restrained from anger. "And secondly, my husband yesterday took my best friend Mila to the dentist. Is that a crime?" There was silence. Then Karina sighed strangely, as if quacking, and regretfully agreed, "No, what a crime it is when people close to each other help each other. Thank you, God. And that I inadvertently thought that you stole a divorced man from your closest friend. I'm sorry. Thank you for your vigilance. Bye." Veronica quickly wrapped up the conversation and was finally able to breathe. What is happening is confusing. In order to prevent Karina from gloating, she lied about going to the dentist. However, the truth remains that Boris was secretly involved with his wife's friend, who was practically like a sister to her. It's important to remain calm, as Veronica knew firsthand the destructive power of jealousy. During the early years of their marriage, she constantly suspected Boris of being unfaithful. Even the slightest glance in another woman's direction would drive her crazy. One particular incident at a friend's birthday party stands out in her memory. Veronica became convinced that Boris was being too affectionate towards a stranger. Fueled by alcohol, she whispered ominous threats and then fled the scene in tears. Her friend chased after her, followed by the rest of the guests. It was a terrible night that she would never forget. However, when they returned home, Boris didn't shout, swear, or threaten divorce. He calmly expressed his frustration and told her that he was tired of her baseless jealousy. This incident was the last straw for him. Veronica wanted to defend herself, but couldn't bring herself to look at her husband. The kind and gentle Boris was replaced by a tired and extinguished version of himself. Veronica felt incredibly ashamed and made a vow to never upset her beloved husband with groundless suspicions. To be fair, Boris had never given her a valid reason for jealousy. He had never hidden his phone, laptop, or computer passwords from her. Veronica's world had been like a fairy tale for 2 years, until the sudden arrival of the Wicked Witch who shattered their trust. With a tight knot in her throat, she nervously dialed her mother-in-law's number. "Good evening, Anna Sergeyevna. Is Borja nearby? I can't reach him. Maybe his phone is dead," Veronica anxiously questioned. "Hello," her husband's calm voice came through the phone after a minute. "My phone is working fine. What's wrong?" Veronica's voice softened as she replied, "Nothing. I just missed you so much." Boris laughed disbelievingly. "Really? And here I thought our apartment was filled with that awful smell from your sea creatures. Are you okay, sunshine? Do you want me to come over?" His affectionate and slightly teasing words warmed Veronica's heart. No, stay with your parents. I wanted to talk to Milka, but I haven't been able to reach her for 3 days. I'm worried that something may have happened." Boris's casual response calmed her nerves. "There's nothing wrong with your Milka. I saw her yesterday. She wanted to see the apartment she inherited from her grandmother." Veronica questioned, "Why?" Surprised, Boris chuckled. "Why? To assess the situation, plan the renovation, and calculate the repair costs. My company will handle all of that. Plus, you might get a discount for your friend." Borja began providing details, and Nika found the discussion about other people's repairs surprisingly interesting. However, Veronica hurried to call Milka after speaking with her husband, wanting to reconcile their statements. "Hello, darling. I haven't heard from you in 3 days," Veronica said. "Hi, I was just about to call you," Milka rejoiced. "I sent Seryoshka to my ex-husband for the weekend, and I already miss him. Can you imagine? You don't know the joy of long-awaited freedom. I'm alone too." "Borja went to his parents," Veronica replied. Milka didn't react to the message, and the friends continued chatting. Eventually, Veronica cautiously began a secret interrogation. "I keep forgetting to ask, are you planning to sell your grandmother's apartment or rent it to tenants?" Veronica asked. "I'll rent it out, of course. Why sell? Sergey will grow up, get married, and it'll be a good apartment in a nice neighborhood. But I won't let anyone in until spring. We need to make the place look presentable. Boris assessed everything yesterday, and renovating it is going to cost a fortune." Milka explained. "And you met with Boris yesterday?" Nika expressed surprise. "He didn't tell you. Probably he thought I had already informed you," Milka laughed. "Nika," a concerned inner voice whispered, "you've been a bit slow with your report." Unaware of her friend's distress, Mila continued to talk. "Svetka visited me today and taught me how to bake these amazing cupcakes. They taste incredible. Can you write down the recipe?" Veronica offered, "Tell me, I'll remember it." After a pleasant conversation with her friend, Nika felt much calmer. She hurriedly made her way to Boris's office to jot down the recipe from memory. Grabbing a pen and a sheet of paper, Nika rummaged through her desk and stumbled upon a small bag from a jewelry store. Curiosity piqued, she opened it to find a white velvet box containing gold earrings with a green stone. They were beautiful, although Nika wasn't particularly fond of colored stones. Nevertheless, she instantly fell in love with the elegant jewelry. It seemed that Boris had conspired with Milka, seeking her advice on a gift. Feeling impatient, Nika decided to try on the earrings. As she stood in front of the mirror and adjusted her hair, the stone caught the light, sparkling brilliantly. Was it a real emerald? Nika couldn't help but wonder why Boris had spent so much money without any specific occasion in mind. New Year's Eve had already passed, and March 8th was still far away. Perhaps he wanted to surprise his wife on Valentine's Day, but Nika doubted she could wait that long. Jokingly, Nika thought, maybe these earrings weren't even meant for me, as she hid the box back in the bag. It reminded her of a movie she once watched, where a wife accidentally found a gift intended for the mistress. She couldn't recall the name, but it was a beautiful and romantic film, just like the one Veronica was planning to watch. With a fluttering heart, Nika hurried to the kitchen to prepare a light dinner, accompanied by a glass of wine, feeling like a butterfly in anticipation of what the future held. The next day, Boris arrived home with gifts from his parents. Veronica was delighted to receive cherry jam and currant jam from her mother-in-law and had been in a wonderful mood all morning. It was Saturday, so there was no need to go to work, and her soul was filled with joy. She opened the window and let the crisp, delicious air fill the room. Outside, the winter day was dazzling, and Nika felt inspired to start a thorough cleaning. With enthusiasm, she scrubbed the stove, sink, and bathtub. Boris, caught up in his wife's excitement, joined in and grabbed a rag and the vacuum cleaner. Working together, their 4 hands quickly made the entire apartment shine. After a satisfying lunch, Boris left for a meeting with a potential customer. Veronica couldn't help but feel a slight disappointment. She had hoped for a hint or a mysterious look from Boris, but none came. She pondered about it, realizing surprises are usually not arranged in broad daylight, especially after cleaning the toilet. Not disc. The sound of the front door lock clicking signaled Boris' return. Veronica took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. Calm down, she urged herself, realizing she had made too many mistakes in the heat of the moment. You have to sort it all out. She got up from the floor and went to prepare a meal for her husband, hoping to distract him from the tension between them. The atmosphere at dinner was heavy, like a thick swamp that Veronica felt trapped in. But Boris seemed oblivious to the gloomy aura or his wife's changed mood. He excitedly asked about the beautifully set table, not waiting for an answer as he enthusiastically shared details about a successful business deal he had secured. Veronica felt a wave of nausea wash over her, her thoughts racing like stray cats in an abandoned attic with broken windows. He wasn't at any meeting, he went to his mistress, she thought, considering reaching out to their friend Milka for any signs of suspicion from the day before. But then the doubts crept in, mocking her. Who were you fooling? Maybe he took Milka's precious earrings. What should I do? How do I confront him? Lost in her thoughts, Veronica absent-mindedly stared at her husband. He appeared so attractive, yet so false, like a stranger's face. Boris caught her gaze and smiled warmly. "Sonny, this fish is fantastic," he exclaimed. "This client is a gold mine. We'll make a fortune with the repairs on their mansion. By the way, we can finally trade in your old car for something decent. Do we have anything for tea?" Veronica snapped back to reality, her dreamlike state shattered. "What?" she exclaimed. "Tea? You just had strawberries and cream. Now you want baked goods? I'm sorry, I didn't have time to bake scones for dinner." Boris expressed his surprise, remarking, "I actually meant a simple cookie or cupcake from the store. You'd think you were baking nonstop." He couldn't resist adding, "I do work too, you know. Or are you implying that I don't know how to handle dough? And what about those cinnamon pretzels? I can't even remember the last time we had them." Boris chuckled friendly and continued, "Nikush, when did I ever make you stay at the stove? I understand that you're busy with your lessons." Veronica silently shouted, "Where are my earrings?" But she said something completely different out loud. "You've been postponing hanging a shelf in Veryushka's room for 2 months, she exclaimed. Boris responded, slightly agitated, "You should have called a professional a long time ago. I don't have a drill, but I'll buy one and hang your shelf." Nika waved away his words and asked, "By the way, who said words, words, words?" Boris, feeling confused, replied, "Is it from a movie? I don't recall Terminator or Spider-Man saying that." Veronica replied wryly, "Unfortunately, neither did Harry Potter. It was Hamlet who said that, Shakespeare." Boris, getting irritated, retorted, "You're the one with a degree in philology, yet who reads Shakespeare these days? I have a degree in construction after all. You really should consider reading Russian classics every now and then, starting with Oblomov." It offers interesting insights into the life of a fellow couch potato, advised the helpful assistant. Excuse me, but I strongly disagree with you, Boris exclaimed, abruptly standing up from the table. Leave me alone. Just go. He shouted as he hastily grabbed his winter jacket from the coat rack and stormed out of the apartment, slamming the door behind him. Veronica, taken aback by her husband's outburst, responded with a tearful, "Go on your own." In tears, she turned to her mother in Turkey for support. He really was at a business meeting, reassured Irina Petrovna. Varia and I had a video call with him right at that time. Don't doubt it for a second. But Mom, where did he take the earrings? I swear, they vanished, Nika protested. Why do you assume he took them? Replied her mother calmly. Maybe he just hid them somewhere safe. I'm sorry, my dear, but you tend to meddle in matters that don't concern you, and Boria is well aware of it. Why didn't he give me the earrings during dinner? Nika sobbed. You yourself said there was no reason for a gift. Perhaps he has already planned a surprise for Valentine's Day. He had some extra money, so he might have bought something special. Either ask him directly or stop tormenting yourself. Jealousy can truly be an ugly beast, advised her mother. Who said that? Nika asked, wiping away her tears. It's Shakespeare, my poor philologist. It's a shame not to know. Anyway, Veronica, please don't confuse me with your doubts. As Boris arrived home, he found his wife Nika in a calmer state than before. However, she was now overwhelmed with guilt. Wanting to apologize, Nika decided to bake cinnamon pretzels. In the kitchen, Boris placed a large box on the table, revealing a heavy drill. It's a drill, Boris announced, expressing his concern over the amount of money he spent on it. Instead of buying this, we could have easily hired a few handymen. I'll hang the shelf tomorrow to avoid disturbing our neighbors on a Saturday night. Nika nodded understandingly and replied, Whatever you say, my love, you can make some noise tomorrow. Maybe I'll make tea and pretzels. The next day, Nika was awakened by the sound of a drill. Boris was diligently hanging a shelf in their daughter's room. Nika, still slightly groggy, checked the clock and realized it was already 11 o'clock. Oh, why was he up so early? She wondered aloud. I had such a nice sleep. Well, I'll go make some coffee now. Putting on her robe and slipping into her fluffy slippers, Nika noticed that the loud drilling had subsided. As she made her way to the hallway, she overheard Boris speaking on the phone. I would love to, but only in the afternoon, okay? Boris said, discussing his plans. I have to deal with some reporting or else I'll be buried in paperwork. 4:00 p.m. That works great. Well, kisses, see you later. Nika entered her daughter's room with a smile, greeting her. Good morning, dear. Are you planning to work on your day off again? She asked. I'll only be gone for an hour, Nikush. You won't even miss me. I just have to go clean up the tools, and while you admire the shelf, Boris replied, tenderly kissing his wife on the nose before leaving. As soon as Boris rattled his hardware in the storeroom, Nika couldn't resist her curiosity and grabbed his phone. She discovered that he had received a call from Milka just a minute ago. Everything suddenly went blurry in front of her eyes. How could this be happening? When Boris entered the room, Nika had already made up her mind. She would track down these traitors and catch them red-handed. Nika could forgive a lot of things, but not betrayal and humiliation. She would confront her friend and file for divorce. However, a picture of lonely old age flashed before her eyes, a gray-haired, barefooted woman yearning for her beloved daughter as she embarked on adulthood. Nika quickly dismissed this thought, realizing it was just her imagination. Lovely shelf, my love, Nika said, maintaining a sweet smile. Have you had breakfast yet? At the appointed time, Nika was on full alert. She bumped into Boris in the hallway, surprising him. Where are you going? He asked while buttoning his jacket. To the store, Veronica replied, pulling out a gray, inconspicuous down jacket and putting on a mouse-colored cap. We're running low on shampoo and toothpaste." Boris offered to give her a ride, to which Nika responded with surprise, "Are you kidding? It's just 3 steps to the supermarket." The couple bid farewell and went their separate ways. Nika hid behind a pole, patiently waiting for her husband's car to exit the parking lot before rushing towards her old Mazda. It wasn't easy to tail her husband without being noticed. She needed to keep a safe distance without raising his suspicion. Nika cursed herself for choosing a bright red car that stood out like a tomato among a sea of gray. She considered putting on a fake mustache to further disguise herself. With an adrenaline rush, Nika managed to find a vacant parking space and nervously settled her red Mazda. After a short wait, Milka emerged from the subway station, adorned in a new fur coat and fashionable boots. Nika couldn't help but wish ill upon her, hoping she'd trip and break her legs. Milan noticed Boris and approached his car with an idiotic smile and a dance in her step. The surveillance continued as the couple made a stop at a jewelry store. Nika wondered if the earrings didn't meet Mila's expectations, or if she demanded yet another piece of jewelry. Impatiently, Veronica awaited their departure from the store. Finally, the trader appeared, clutching an open velvet box, unable to take her eyes off its contents, her loyal accomplice. Bad luck found Nika in an unexpected way. As she approached the intersection, a massive van suddenly emerged, blocking her view of the Mazda. When the traffic light turned green, Nika found herself clueless about which direction Boris's car had taken. However, she took solace in the fact that her friend's ex-husband had taken her son for a few days, allowing her and Boris to seek refuge in Mila's empty apartment. But little did they know that their happiness would be short-lived. Winter days were already short, and darkness had enveloped the surroundings when the red Mazda parked across from Mila's house, right in front of her windows. Faint light seeped through the curtains, hinting at the presence of vague silhouettes. Were they dancing? All the excitement and anticipation had vanished, leaving Nika overwhelmed with tears streaming down her cheeks. What was she to do in this vile and humiliating situation? Should she break into the apartment, unleashing her fury upon her friend and husband? Or should she gather his belongings, pack them into suitcases, and leave them outside in the hallway? These feeble attempts at maintaining her dignity felt pathetic. Veronica had never feared being seen as a scandalous woman, and she would have easily wrecked Mila's cozy apartment if it weren't for the fear that gripped her. She was merely scared and hurt by what she was witnessing firsthand. Suddenly, the lights went out in Mila's bedroom, causing all rational thoughts to flee from Nika's mind. She leaped out of the car, sprinted up to the 4th floor, and began pounding relentlessly on the door. "Nika, what's wrong?" Mila's voice trembled with fear as she peered at her friend through the partially opened door, her hand clutching an open silk robe. "Is something wrong with your daughter, Nika?" Veronica forcefully pushed Ludmila aside and made her way straight to the bedroom. Nika trailed closely behind, wondering what could be happening. "Are you out of your mind, Nika?" she questioned, catching up to her friend. "You're going into the room with your shoes on. What's going on?" Nika ominously replied, "You'll see." She opened the bedroom door and froze in shock. Seated on the bed was a strange man with his shirt unbuttoned. It was a complete nightmare. Trying to salvage the situation, Veronica politely greeted the man before hastily exiting the apartment with a burning sense of shame. As she descended the stairs, she was greeted with an angry voice shouting at her from behind, "You fool! Why did you come here?" In the car, Nika berated herself, overwhelmed by embarrassment. How could she have not realized that Boris's Toyota was not parked outside Mila's house? She questioned her hasty departure from her friend, regretting not asking Mila about her boyfriend's visit to the jewelry store. Did Mila know about Boris's infidelity? Entering the living room at home, Veronica barged in without bothering to undress, presenting herself to her husband in a disheveled state. Breathless, sweaty, clad in an old down jacket and a backward-facing, unattractive hat. An oil painting, Boris chuckled. Where have you been wandering, my love? I've been waiting eagerly. So what do you think? The room was bathed in a soft, muted light, accompanied by beautiful, gentle music. On a small table set for two, her favorite wine, cheese, fruit, and a white velvet box were arranged. Realization hit her like a ton of bricks. Nikki felt a weight lift from her shoulders. Discarding her outer garments on the floor, she approached the table. Borka, this is a surprise, isn't it? Thank you, my dear, Veronica exclaimed, reaching for the velvet case. What? White gold earrings adorned with clear, sparkling stones? She was on the verge of losing it. They're different earrings, the wife said gloomily. Of course they are, Boris confirmed cheerfully, oblivious to her discontent. Aren't they beautiful? Milka assured me you would love them. What does she have to do with this? Veronica asked, bewildered. She picks them out. Listen, there's a whole story here, her husband explained animatedly. When we visited her grandmother's apartment, I mentioned I wanted to buy you some jewelry just because. Mila remembered that you've been eyeing earrings for a while, so she helped me choose a lovely pair with emeralds. I intended to give them to you on Saturday. Why didn't you? Listen to me, sweetheart. On Friday, while I was at my parents' house, Mila and I spoke on the phone. I sent her a picture of my new earrings, and she was very upset. Apparently, she thought you didn't like yellow gold and colored stones, and that they didn't suit you. So we made plans to go to the store today and exchange them. Mila even picked out the earrings herself. Turns out, she did a great job. Veronica whispered with tears welling up in her throat. These earrings are absolutely stunning, she said as she kissed her husband. Bor, could you pour me some wine? Before that, call Mela, he said. She was really worried about whether you'd like her choice or not. Ease the mind of your dear friend. I don't think my dear friend wants to listen to me right now, Nika replied without thinking. Boris studied her guilty face and asked, Nikush, did you do something? Tell me. Veronica blushed and confessed all her sins to her husband. To her surprise, Boris didn't get angry. Instead, he looked at her with tenderness and sympathy. Silly girl, he said, pulling Nika close and kissing the top of her head. What a nightmare. Instead of simply asking me about the earrings, you put yourself through 3 whole days of hell. How difficult would it have been to just ask? Jealousy is a terrible thing. It can consume a person. A monster with green eyes, Veronica recalled her mother's description of jealousy. That's what my mother-in-law used to say, Boris added. No, she didn't say that, Veronica corrected him. Then who did? Boris wondered. Oh my God, Nika exclaimed, shaking her head. It was Shakespeare. Boria, what are you even doing? It's embarrassing not to know.